Hello everyone, this is a One Control Report quick play of Rhythm Thief for the Nintendo 3DS. This is a SEGA adventure rhythm game thing. I guess whatever, I don't know what genre you would call like a story-based game that like integrates rhythm elements similar to like Space Channel 5 or like Guitar Man. And in the case of this game, it's kind of got some latent elements as well. So we'll take a look at that here. Per usual with the rhythm games, I'm just commenting over this after playing it because it's impossible for me to commentate during playing a rhythm game. Also, in per usual, this is a Nintendo 3DS game, so the quality of the video and audio is likely going to be off due to how I'm capturing it. So if there's any technical issues, I will try to note that during the video. But otherwise, if you see any framiness, particularly at the bottom screen in this case, I'm trying a different setup here, and the bottom screen when I was recording this is pretty choppy. And while the bottom screen is used fairly often, it doesn't have a lot moving on it other than text. So it's gonna be choppy on the bottom screen, but the top screen is what really matters for the rhythm games themselves. Anyways, on to the game. So we're not gonna start with any kind of rhythm aspect yet. This is kind of just the main progression of the game. You basically have a series of dots on a map similar to like an overworld map that you'd expect, and I guess you could compare it to like a Mario game. You just kind of go around town, you talk to people. I really like the character design in this game. This is like just a bald old dude, but there's actually a lot of characters and a lot of variety in their design. Aesthetically, I think this game is very pleasing, and a lot of people compared this game when it came out to like a Professor Layton in some ways, which I can kind of see that. The main progression is pretty much you go around these areas, and then you either find the person you need to talk to, or you'll like solve a puzzle there or something like that. So in cases where you solve the puzzle, and also you can click around the screen and get money as well. It's like a big part of this game is just going around and clicking everything and trying to get as much money as possible. But you can see right there, I just got like a chicken sound effect, and that was added to like an inventory of sounds, which those sounds are used for like a bonus mini game thing, I guess. Like there's a kind of like a quest giver who asks for specific sounds and stuff, and you use those sounds for that. But the other portion of it that you use it for is these little like dialogue sequences here. So if I recall correctly, this is like a lady here or a student here, and her teacher is a sleepy boy. He is asleep while standing. So obviously, if you ever played a video game before, chances are how we solve this is through bringing the chicken noise. So you'll see, I think there's a couple instances in the footage I've chosen for this where this happens. One thing you'll see later is that like I kind of, and then I also got a bell noise or whatever by clicking a bell there. These puzzles are not particularly hard. Like the chicken thing is obviously pretty obvious. Also, I was trying to touch the button there and it wasn't letting me do it. The chicken thing's obviously pretty obvious, but in some cases where it's not obvious, or you just don't have the sound effect that you need to solve a puzzle, the game is very, very lenient at pointing itself or pointing you to what you should be doing, or maybe to the detriment of the game. I will say these overworld segments and puzzles aren't typically hard. At least I played through the first half of this game again to get footage, but I have beaten this game in the past, and pretty much every puzzle I came across in the overworld is very easy. You can kind of just run through all these parts if you want without stopping. The main reason I stop at these little dots is to see if there's new NPCs that have shown up. So I think this guy wasn't there before. So you just get a new little bit of dialogue, and then I think in the case of this guy, he's like sneezing or coughing, so we get some coughing there, yeah. Or sneeze. I actually can't read the text because how small the screen is right now. I should probably make this bigger for me. So yeah, I'm trying to remember if there's anything regarding this like open world segment I can really show again. This is the main open world, so you spend a lot of time in these areas. So once you've kind of clicked around and gotten a lot of the money, you don't really have to go and click on things again. At least as far as I can remember, they don't like really refresh the environment in any way. The biggest thing is just checking to see if there are new characters at different spots and seeing if they have different text. Usually after any sort of major event that happens in the game, all these characters will update their text. We're here at night today, but or at this part of the game, but you'll come around here during the day, and these paths aren't like already all open up. They kind of open up bit by bit while you're playing through the game. So every chapter you kind of have more and more to kind of explore around. There's other collectibles in the background other than those coins. Those coins are basically used to buy like videos and stuff. Pretty minor stuff in terms of like the content you're getting from the game, as far as I can remember at least. I probably should looked up exactly what you can buy in full, but basically what's presented at least up until about halfway through the game is the ability to rebuy old cutscenes and stuff they haven't played, add songs to the jukebox and things like that. I don't recall if there were any unlockable songs through the money, but there are also like little music notes that you can collect as well. I recall it all being pretty minor stuff overall, and you know, it's nice to have something to like kind of poke around for, but it does get a little tedious because there's no real these things are typically placed in places that are like identifiable. So if there's like a window or a lamp or something like that, but sometimes these backgrounds are so busy that it's really hard to tell where things are placed, especially the music note ones, which seem almost random in some ways, or not really well, at least not very logically placed out in a way that the player can really determine. So here's a little small puzzle here again with the sound effects. I'm having a little trouble with the screen here. I think how you move the screen here, it was, I can't remember which way it was, if it's like dragging it wasn't working or if you have to like tap to the sides to bring it over. It was one or the other. Basically, this lady, she's locked this door, or the door is not locked, or oh no, it is locked, sorry. We need to get in this place. It's authorized access only, so she's like, you can't come in, and then we're like, joke's on you, we're gonna make a phone call for you and distract you. Now the door's locked. And instead of using an actual key, it uses some silly, like everything else in this game, it uses some kind of silly rhythm lock. So this is super simple. Basically, it's going to show me a pattern here, and I just have to press the button in line with the pattern. So it's basically doubling up each note. So that last one, I just have to press the last note twice. And in this case, it's going through each of them left to right. Put the last note again. Hey, puzzle solved. And that's kind of the level of all these map puzzles. It's usually just like a slight timing element for the kind of the rhythm stuff, and some minor logic stuff. This game very much feels like they're trying to account for like the lowest common denominator and not really get you stuck or challenge you in terms of these kind of puzzles, at least. So let's see. Oop. Apparently I accidentally opened the menu here. I'm trying to recall what we get out of coming in here. I think we just get like the next story object. So kind of give a little explanation of the story of this game. You're this kid named Raphael. You're secretly Phantom R. He's a thief who steals stuff one day and then returns them the next day untouched, essentially. There's a story reason for that. I don't think we really go into that in this quick play, and I'll try to not spoil it really, because I don't think there's really a purpose. But yeah, you're kind of like, you're being chased by the cops. But your real goal is that even though you're a thief, you're like out trying to, like you're out trying to find your dad. This is, and you'll find that it's like a theme in general, like a parental abandonment, I guess is what you might call it. And that's kind of the main story. It's a very kids-friendly game, but it also is like in that weird range in between where it's like, oh, it's like 13, like it's semi-serious and it has semi-darker themes, but also it's just like, it's very kid-friendly. So one nice thing that you can do when you're like exploring the overworld, if you take the time, is you can find hidden mini games. So this is one of the random rhythm games you can find in the open world. This, as far as I recall, is not a required mini game here. Being a SEGA rhythm game, this rhythm game uses Samba de Amigo music. If you're not familiar, it's a Dreamcast rhythm game that used these maracas, and you would shake the maracas. They're like motion controllers. You'd shake the maracas in the up, middle, or down position. In the case of this, we're basically... Oh, and then I think you did poses as well with the maraca. So in the case of this, we're just pressing the D-pad and the 3 buttons to kind of coordinate with the general position of where the maracas would be. And then you basically pose the 3DS. So if you hear any audio, it's just because I'm moving the 3DS around and the cable may jumbled around a little bit. So the game is kind of a mix of a lot of different style of rhythm games, and we'll take a look at a lot of them through here. This one's probably one of the most complicated ones because it's 6 buttons, and it also has motion controls. Typically, they kind of limit the number of inputs you have. Usually, it's just pressing the A button, maybe just the A and the B button. There are some where you have 4 different touchscreen selections you got to choose between. You may not do that back to back pretty quickly, or there's different motions you have to do. In the case of this one, it has essentially 9 different things you could be doing. I think it's up, left, right for the motion, and then all 6 of those buttons. The motion controls in this one is not so bad. I'll show you one later that it's a little bit more problematic. This game, being on the 3DS, tried to use kind of everything the 3DS had. So motion controls are a part of what the 3DS had. So it definitely goes out its way to use them. And, motion controls in a rhythm games very much require precise timing. And unfortunately, motion controls typically don't have precise timing. So yeah, Samba de Amigo. That's a good little song. And I'm trying to recall what we cut to here. Let's see. What are we looking at next? It's been a little while since I edited this footage together. Although I think I might just show here that we basically get spit back onto the overworld, and you can kind of navigate back around. There's some other crossover stuff too. I think Space Channel 5 is also represented here, so you do some Space Channel 5 music, stuff like that. So it's nice that they added that kind of stuff. So here we have another rhythm game. So basically, this rhythm game is kind of like I was talking about earlier, where the cops are chasing you. So you have this I don't know what you would call them, head of the police force thing trying to chase you down. So you get a lot of fun banter in these rhythm games. Typically, unlike the Samba de Amigo one, which is basically just having a good time, dancing music. In this case, we're actually running from cops and stuff, and so that guy's like, "You will rot in jail," kind of thing. It's set in Paris, so everybody has a fake French accent. Whether those are accurate or not, I'm gonna guess probably not, but it's got a charm to it. As somebody who is in the U.S. and maybe not familiar with what a French accent typically would sound like. I think these little interstitial cutscenes here are affected by your performance per section. So if you do well, I think the cutscene is usually Phantom R doing a little impressive little technique or some little silly thing to kind of taunt their opponents. Or if you don't do as well, it's kind of him stumbling about a little bit. As you can see on top of the screen, we have a ranking. That ranking builds pretty slowly, but if you miss one, it goes down very quickly. So it's very easy to get an A ranking all the way to the end and then miss 3 or 4 notes and then be down to D or E. Thankfully, if there's a lot of inputs, you can also quickly turn things around. If you get through the majority of a minigame at a C ranking, there's still the possibility to get up to an A ranking typically. So it seems like they've really built the game in mind that, hey, you might you might have mixed performance on these mini games, and it typically, as honestly, I don't even know if you can fail these mini games. I have gotten very, very low ratings for it, and the game still will just kick you into the the next segment, no matter what. So, but you do get like a point score that actually matters. This game has a lot of anime cutscenes in between things. So this is actually just pretty much right after that segment we just saw after we escaped. So we're on the streets of Paris, and I'd say this is typically the general vibe of the game. So this little girl lost her balloon, and then she plays some music and the lights on the street light up, and then it's just very cute, charming. Marie's kind of the other main character here. She has been abandoned by her mother. I forget if her father had died or if he's just also was not involved in her life. She was basically dropped off at an orphanage. So she's searching for her mother while Raphael is searching for his father. And Raphael is just a generally overall very nice guy. Everybody seems to typically like him except for the police. So it's kind of nice though that, like, you know, even though he's super nice, like, you do have like kind of this antagonistic force chasing him down that's also like kind of for good. Really the only evil force here is I think Napoleon, which we might see later, but so this is just another cutscene, and this is kind of Marie's main story development here, where she finally goes to meet her mother, and her mother's just like, no, I don't want anything to do with this little girl.
Are you my mother?
It's pretty cheesy, but I like it.
Do not waste my time,
As you'll see here.
Jean-Francois. She cannot be my daughter.
Starts playing her violin for her mom. I do like this song, Moon Princess. I assume it's an actual song. I don't know much about music.
I know this song. It's Moon Princess.
My mother left me this song.
I think that little crackle in the voice is actually an issue with the game audio. I was watching somebody else's footage recently that was doing direct capture, or at least from an emulator, and it also cracked there. So I didn't actually listen to it off the 3DS itself, so it may also crack there. And that run animation just looks really weird and janky. Let's see. Okay, so this is pretty much right afterwards. And so basically, you know, I showed you the kind of the overworld part of the map moving around stuff earlier. In this case, this is kind of each chapter ends with you going into, I guess, what you could call a dungeon per se. So in this case, we're in like an opera house or whatever, and we have a particular goal. The lady that is Marie's supposed mother, I forget if she actually is. I believe she probably is, but it's been a while. In the case with that lady, we need to steal something from her. So you kind of go around and you do little tasks, and typically rhythm mini games are kind of worked in here. Again, nothing hard though. This game's pretty much a cakewalk. You'll very rarely get stuck. As you can see there on the map, like as you get objectives and stuff, it will actually like paint a line for you of where you should be going. And there's actually like exclamation points over the area that you'll find your thing. So anything you kind of stop and do in between here typically is just of your own interest. Very rarely will you find something that is required while going through there. So you'll find things like money, some extra flavor text, things like that. One thing I do like about doing some of these little dungeon run kind of missions here is that sometimes Raphael gets some different outfits. So this just is like his standard outfit when he's out like on the streets and stuff. And then in this case, we are going to try to become a waiter for this place because they're short-staffed. So just follow the red line essentially, and we find what we need here. One of the few instances that somebody actually runs around on screen. Usually they're just standing completely still. I don't know why they decided to do that for this dude. And then so this is what I was kind of telling about a bit earlier. I'm going to struggle here a little bit while I try to find out what sound he's looking for. I'm pretty sure he's looking for a bell, and I have a bell, but not the bell in particular he's looking for. I have like a street, like large bell kind of thing where he's looking for like the little tiny service one. And so you can see on the map, it's actually pointing me to go find that, but I didn't realize this at this point. And so I'm just like sitting here fumbling around, which I think is maybe, again, once you know that the game's pointing you out to everything, you don't ever really run into this kind of thing. Well, while we're here, though, one of the kind of core aspects of the story that I didn't really mention earlier, and I don't recall if I have anything in here that really shows it, is that basically Napoleon has risen from the dead, and he's trying to, I think he's trying to take either Marie or her violin. I forget what his ultimate goal is, and you also have some stuff that he wants to, so he's trying to get this stuff from you guys, and kind of take over France in the world again. With the kind of the biggest like threat you get from him is there's like a bunch of soldiers he has, like armored clad soldiers that go around, and so you typically have to play some mini games where you have to fight against them. But I can't recall if we actually see that or not during the footage I selected. So, but that's kind of the core conflict of the plot. Let me go through here. But yeah, it's this kind of game, like the story in general, like it's kind of like alongside Mega Man X and Rodea the Sky Soldier and stuff like that, where it's kind of like this in between of, yes, it's a very kid friendly game, but it tackles some like themes that are not so kid friendly at time. Like, I mean, being abandoned by your parents isn't like anything devastating in terms of like, reading it as a story, as actually being there. Obviously, it's a bit different. But it is a little more than just, happy-go-lucky all the time. But the game is very happy-go-lucky.
We start with the basics.
I really like this one. This song's actually really good, and kind of the problem I have with rhythm games like this, if I like listen to their soundtracks afterwards, is like the stuff that's happening in the song as well, between like the movement and the voicing and stuff, to me is a part of the song. So when you hear the song without these like little bells and people talking, which I know is just like sound effects and stuff, so it doesn't typically sound like a part of the song, but like the song feels naked in some ways. So, and just kind of a note, like this is like a story rhythm game, so like within the story itself, you can't really redo this mini game ever again. But there's a list of mini games you can replay from the menu, so, and you can try to get like a higher score again on it. Any kind of touchscreen and button input stuff is pretty responsive. I rarely have any issues with the touchscreen itself and like sliding stuff around, unlike what's that game called? Rhythm Heaven on the Nintendo DS that has like that flick motion that you have to do. That game has a lot of issues with the touchscreen because it's looking for a very specific motion. This is just kind of sliding for the most part, so as long as you're sliding in the correct direction, the game is happy. I can't think of any time that I ever had a slide input be dropped. One thing that to note with these kind of events here is this isn't really something you can do with your eyes closed. Although in the case of this one, his vocal cues might give it like you enough information of what you should be doing, but like the roller skating one we showed earlier, there's not really like any kind of audio cue for when you should be pressing a button or something like that. So some of these songs in the game you have to use your visual information in order to kind of play along to the song, versus some of the other ones, this one maybe included, where you can kind of close your eyes and just do it. I think a good rhythm game is one where you can never look at the screen, essentially. That's not to say that you shouldn't look at the screen. I mean, this game, I think, is a great looking game. I mean, like, technically, maybe not amazing looking. Like, model-wise, it's not super clean, but I think it's just got a great style to it. I mean, it's kind of like amateurish in some ways, but in a way that really fits with the story that I think is very, very charming, I guess. So this is a completely mini game or motion control mini game. This is another optional one, and so basically you just gotta tilt the 3DS left and right, and it's not hard to do this mini game. You can see it's pretty simple, but sometimes you can see like I vibrate back and forth. The 3DS just doesn't know where you're at, and if that happens while you're supposed to be playing a note, or not really playing a note, but like, you know, catching the meat at that point, and you vibrate off to the side, you know, it's a very specific window, so like it's easy to mess up an input because of that. And because of that, I feel like this game is one that you don't really want to go out of your way to try to perfect or anything like that, because some of this is just going to be down to the technology. I mean, obviously you can spend a lot of time with it and try to figure out exactly what the game's looking for. In terms of the console movement, this is a fairly easy motion control mini game. There's one that was actually in that ballroom place that's kind of right after the part we just stopped, where you're basically boxing a guy, and you're kind of using the 3DS to duck forward, lean left, lean right, and it's just not. The motion controls just aren't up for the task. I don't feel like the motion controls add anything to this game, and I have this problem with 3DS games in general that use motion. It's just that like you can't see the screen when you're tilting it typically, or at least like, you know, you're moving the screen side to side, so it's hard to kind of keep track of what's going on sometimes, and so that this game suffers from that. This is maybe my favorite mini game just because it's a violin mini game, and the whole thing is like sliding left and right. And when you're doing the left and right sliding, it very much mimics the violin motion. And so even though as simple as this game is of just going back and forth left and right, this is one of those ones that if you know the song, like, yes, you don't get the visual or the audio cues for it ahead of time, but if you're familiar with the song Moon Princess, you really just need to know which direction you're going to be swiping, and once you know the first note, which direction you're going to be swiping, you can just feel out the rest of it the whole way through. And I really like this one. I'm not sure if there are, like, other violin-focused, like, rhythm games out there. I'd be curious to see it. I should look up to see sometime, because I actually really like this one. You know, whether or not a violin-focused rhythm game would work when you start, you know, introducing other elements, because in this case you're not doing anything other than doing left and right, so that likely would not carry a violin focused rhythm game. You'd also probably have to add on, you know, strings and, like, you know, I forget what it's called, where you like put your fingers down on the notes. I played violin for like a year or two or something like that when I was a kid. Was terrible at it. But I did okay here. I think I might perfect the song here. I can't recall if I missed one or not. But I really like this song too. I like Marie as a character, and I like her outfit too. She's cute. Raphael's cute too. Raphael being the main character. I like the character design in this game in general. I've come back to that a few times now. But it's just very, very simple in a way that feels... Okay, yeah, it looks like I missed one somewhere there. My combo count dropped back down. But it just feels really fitting for the game and the tone of the story. And I think this is maybe a good rhythm game to test your idea of what this game may be. Like, this song is super cheesy. Basically, after Marie got, like, turned down by her mom, she ran off and is very sad. And so you come to put a smile back in her face. So this is a song about putting a smile back on Marie's face, and you just dance to it. And it's got vocals to it. There's not a ton of vocal songs in this game, but the ones that are in here, I think, are, if you're familiar with Sega's vocal song quality, you might appreciate very, very cheesy but very charming music. Like if you like Dreams from Night into Dreams, something like that, you probably would be into this to some extent. Maybe not so much if you're into Crush 40 or something like that, who does like the Sonic music, but yeah. Let's see, I think this is the last mini game, so we're just gonna go ahead and wrap it up here. But yeah, I like Rhythm Thief a lot. Unfortunately, I'd have to check into it again. I think the physical copy is pretty pricey these days, but you can buy it digitally on the eShop. There was an iOS version, I think, but I have no idea what the current availability of that is, or if there's any microtransactions or anything like that. But yeah, thanks for coming. OneControlReport.com is the website. I've been taking it kind of slow, so mainly doing quick plays and stuff. There's some streams up on there. Did a controller cleaning stream recently, so if you want to check that out, you can. Otherwise, though, just head to the website, and you'll see the podcast and videos and all that good stuff. I hope you have a great week. Bye.